Hello again, everybody. Welcome to the Backbone Podcast, where common sense still makes sense in a world that is sick and only getting sicker. And, as time goes by, if the world has shown you anything, if life has shown you anything, is that nothing, absolutely nothing is permanent. And the people of Chicago are starting to realize that right now. The people of Illinois are starting to realize that. The Chicago Bears today announced and lauded Indiana's progress on a Hammond Stadium site near Wolf Lake as their quote, most meaningful step forward after Illinois' efforts faltered over tax disputes in Arlington Heights to relocate the Bears. Amendment Senate Bill 27 passed a key House committee 24-0, creating a stadium authority with public funding. Of course, the public always funds these stupid things. Modeling a building similar to Indianapolis's Lucas Oil Stadium. The Bears would invest about $2 billion privately. Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker, the guy who sells opioids to people, voiced disappointment, while Mayor Brandon Johnson insisted the team belongs in the city of Chicago, amid fans divided over the Bears staying or belonging in the city of Chicago, which would break a 100-year tradition of Chicago Bear football in that iconic city. Listen to me. This has happened before. This has happened. This will happen again. If anyone is old enough to remember, and I certainly am, the Baltimore Colts, one of the most iconic football teams in NFL history, they left Baltimore in the middle of the night in March of 1984, like thieves in the night. The city of Baltimore was so adamant of keeping the Colts in Baltimore that Baltimore was literally trying to take the Colts away from the Irsay family. Baltimore was unsuccessful at persuading the Colts to stay. So the city government attempted to get state legislature to condemn the Colts franchise and give ownership to another group that would promise to keep the Colts in Baltimore. This is 1984. Now, there is precedent because the city of Oakland had just, at that time, had just done the same thing to keep the Raiders, or at least try to keep the Raiders, in Oakland. Under the threat of eminent domain from the city of Baltimore, the franchise relocated to Indianapolis in the middle of the night on March 29th, 1984. The city of Baltimore did not give up, and they sued to condemn the franchise anyway and seize ownership. Baltimore, of course, the city of Baltimore lost, of course, in court, and they would have to wait 12 years to acquire a new NFL team in 1996, which we now know as the Baltimore Ravens. We know that the New York Giants, and to a lesser extent the New York Jets, they moved to East Rutherford, New Jersey, which is still their home now, just not Giant Stadium. It's called MetLife. It's a disaster. So you're talking about two teams, Giants and Colts, storied, iconic franchises, the face of the old NFL, leaving their states, leaving their cities for greener pasture. And to think that the Bears wouldn't do this is ridiculous. Is it a bluff, or are the Bears all in? I think the Bears are all in. This is not a bluff. We've seen this before. We've seen this in baseball. Think about the Brooklyn Dodgers, an iconic team. The New York Giants, the New York Baseball Giants, an iconic team. The city of New York, because of the stupidity and weakness of the mayor and the governor of New York, who listened to a fool named Robert Moses, didn't only lose the Brooklyn Dodgers, they lost the New York Giants. The Giants, of course, going to San Francisco. The Dodgers, of course, going to Los Angeles. They lost those two teams not within 10 years or 5 years. They lost them the same year because Robert Moses refused to allow the Dodgers to stay in Brooklyn. He wanted the Dodgers to move to where the World's Fair was in Flushing. And the Dodgers said, if we don't stay in Brooklyn, we don't stay in New York. They didn't bluff. They left. And they got the deal of a lifetime as they opened up the West Coast to Major League Baseball. And it was a great move for them. It was a great move for the Giants, too. The New York Giants were playing in the Polo Grounds. They couldn't get a new stadium. The Dodgers couldn't get – Ebbets Field was falling apart. Neither team wanted to move, but they needed new stadiums. They needed new parks. And instead, New York traded the Giants and Dodgers for the Mets. Think about that. And the city of Chicago has another, right there, another incompetent man, Brandon Johnson, and they've had incompetent mayors left and right, who is trying to stop the Bears from moving. If you look at that city, tell me that you want to take your family on a Sunday afternoon or a Sunday night or a Monday night or a Thursday night into that city. You'd have to be insane. Now, Gary, Indiana, which is the area where they're talking about, is no better, trust me. But it looks like the state of Indiana will, create this utopia around that stadium that the Chicago can't do. And of course, they're going to build a stadium that's probably going to be $4 or $5 billion, and the taxpayers of Indiana, who will probably never ever get to walk into that stadium because they won't be able to afford it, they're the ones who are going to flip the bill. Will the Bears be known as the Gary, Indiana Bears? I don't know. I doubt it. That would be a shame. I mean, the Giants and Jets aren't known as the New York, New Jersey Jets. There was years ago, there was talk about that, about changing the Giant and Jet names to the New York, New Jersey Giants, New York, New Jersey Jets. You're not going to do that to the Giants. The Giants and the Yankees are the two biggest teams in New York. You're never going to do that. Now, in the 1980s, George Steinbrenner over and over again talked about moving the Yankees out of New York, out of the Bronx, to either White Plains, where there was a big landfill that they were going to buy and move it up there. He was thinking about taking over Yonkers Raceway, building a stadium up there, which would have been an even bigger traffic disaster. Or he was even considering moving to New Jersey. The city of New York, because of the whole issue with parking, and it's still a disaster parking up there. That new stadium is terrible. But Steinbrenner, the great George Steinbrenner, even wanted to do that. Now, teams do move from their cities to more spread out, larger suburbs. The San Francisco 49ers don't play in San Francisco. They play in Santa Clara. Is that a big deal? I mean, yeah, if you're a San Francisco resident, you have to now drive, I think it's a half hour, 45 minutes without traffic. But this is a whole nother state. And it's Indiana. You have to, it's just another indication of sports teams, owners, players, leagues, they don't give a shit about the fans. They really don't. And it's just a shame that these people, you're going to have Bear fans who are going to have to probably buy PSLs, private license seatings, which they're going to have to put their houses, a second mortgage on their houses. They're probably going to have to do that to pay for this thing. Their team is not theirs anymore. Will it say Chicago? Will it stay the Chicago Bears? I don't think the NFL will allow them to rename their team. But will it be Chicago? Will it have that aura? It's probably going to be a dome, so you won't have those great snow games. You won't have those great cold weather games anymore. But these are the signs of the times. Things change, unfortunately. And things usually, sometimes they change for the worst. Most of the time it just seems in this era, things are just changing for the worst all the fucking time. And I don't believe this is a bluff. I think the Bears are serious. I think if the stadium proposal goes through in Indiana, which it looks like it's going to, the Bears might be gone. And when you have a guy like Brandon Johnson, who's as incompetent as it gets, you have no hope of a great negotiation. Here is this mental midget in a 36-second clip. And here he thinks he's John Cena. But here's the mayor of Chicago, unfortunately.
Is my face straight? Okay. All right. Keep a straight face here. The Bears belong in the city of Chicago. The Chicago Bears belong in the city of Chicago, right? And I've said repeatedly that the door is always open for conversations, and, Kevin Warren did call me yesterday. We didn't get a chance to connect, and I still firmly believe that their best position is in Chicago, and it's evidence. The evidence is clearly speaking for itself. Is my face straight?
The evidence is clearly speaking for itself that people don't want to go into a crime-ridden city and risk their families' lives, risk getting carjacked, risk getting mugged, risk getting murdered just to see a football game. And, this mayor can talk all he wants. But apparently Indiana have the space. They have the area picked out, and the Bears love it. And if this continues, after 106 years of Bear football in Chicago, the inept run of the state of Illinois and the city of Chicago, who is at war with all business owners, who are all running to business-friendly red states that are next door. This is the great indicator that blue doesn't work. And this is the great indicator that, yes, elections have consequences. Some people in the city of Chicago could give two shits about the Bears. They could give two shits about the Cubs or the White Sox. I get it. But what happens when all of the businesses leave? What happens then? Because a lot of businesses are fleeing these cities: Detroit, Chicago, San Francisco, New York, Baltimore. They're fleeing. They're fleeing because the policies around them don't support their businesses. They don't want to have a gang of vermin running around, stealing their shit, not paying for stuff. And the government or the local government or local authorities are helpless to do anything about it because of this disease, this cancer called liberalism. Liberalism is a mental disorder, and we're seeing it firsthand as not just Walgreens or ShopRites or any of these other stores. They're not just the ones that are leaving. Now you're seeing sports teams leaving these cities. If that's not an indication that shit's going downhill, I don't know what is. And there's my 2 cents. A terrible indictment on the city of Chicago and their lead. Well, they had no leadership. Thanks again for watching. Please like, subscribe, comment, and share. Remember, my friends, Satan is always busy. Be a man and have a backbone, because masculinity and common sense are worth standing up for. And remember, if it ends in an ism, it's a mental disorder. We'll see you later.